Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. If you have not done so already, what are you waiting for? Sign up for the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. Get the inside scoop on all things BYU sports that I have for you guys. And the best part is, it's just $5 a month to be a part of the group. And the messages, you don't have to go to a website or a message board to get them. They come to your phone in the form of a text message. You can fire back with thoughts of your own. We have one-on-one conversations via text. And it's, like I said, $5 a month to be a part of the group. And the kicker is you get a 2-week free trial, 14 days before you're charged a single penny. So sign up today and be a part of the Locked On Cougars Insider Group ahead of this upcoming football and basketball season. All right, before we go on today's show, let's talk about the NBA draft lottery. Now, I am a jaded Utah Jazz fan, and I am very grumpy about how things went last night because I wanted nothing more than, as I mentioned, to capture the flag. That's been the kind of the tagline about Cooper Flag and his being a next level savant, a guy who could be a franchise icon for a franchise. And the Utah Jazz, with the worst overall record in the NBA, the worst record in franchise history, got the short end of the stick and ended up with the 5th overall pick. Great. The bigger point is BYU has a guy that there are certain NBA franchises out there, if you believe the reports out there, and I've heard them from people out there when it comes to the NBA draft, that if a guy like AJ Dybantsa was in this year's NBA draft, there are franchises who would have mortgaged the farm to take AJ over Cooper Flag. And any of you who pay attention to college basketball on a national level know how much of an outsized magnifying glass there was on Cooper Flag and the Duke Blue Devils, because he has been the presumptive number 1 pick for multiple years now in this NBA draft cycle. He has had people just analyzing and examining and poking and prodding and looking at every angle of his game for years now. And BYU's got a guy who's better than that? Yeah. That's what the reports say, is that AJ Dybantsa is that and maybe just a little bit more, and would have been a preferred pick of certain NBA franchises had he been eligible for this year's NBA draft. Get ready, everybody. The hoopla, the scrutiny, everything that comes with having the presumptive number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, it is uprooting from Duke University and traveling across the country bandwagon style, and it's going to set up shop in Provo, Utah. This is going to be an absolutely insane basketball season. And I don't need to regale you with how much there's a hype riding on what AJ and the BYU Cougars could do this season. We've talked a lot about that recently. If you're an everydayer, we've talked about the fact that there's hype about them being at worst top 5 team in the NBA. Not the NBA, in college basketball, and making a run at a national title, heck, making even the first Final Four in program history. That's all one thing. But the simple fact of life is that a guy like AJ, he's going to live in a fishbowl for the next, call it 8, 9, 10 months until he is eligible to actually declare for the NBA draft after this next college basketball season. He is going to have NBA talent evaluators. Remember, when BYU played Baylor, was that in January or February in Provo, Utah, there were at least 3 dozen NBA talent evaluators, whether it was scouts, assistant coaches. There were at least 2 GMs that were in the building. One of them, I think, was the Warriors GM. What's his face? He's the former NBA player. I'm blanking on his name. You guys know who I'm talking about, I hope. But the bigger point is there were 3 dozen people in the stands that night to watch potential lottery picks like Jaeger Demon, VJ Edgecombe play in that game. We also saw a starring role, one of the really, truly starring performances from a guy like Cannon Catchings in that game. That is going to be almost, it feels like, an every night thing when BYU takes the court this coming season. There are going to be NBA scouts just all over. And I expect national college basketball reporters to be filling up press row at BYU. I don't proclaim to be like the expert on college basketball that some others can lay claim to, but I can tell you this much. It was a pretty filled up radio row, media rows, I should say, for BYU at different points last year. I am fully expecting that it's going to be even more stuff to the gills, and I could be sitting even higher up than I already do watching BYU basketball next season. And I'm not complaining, because I'm going to get the proverbial front row seat to watch maybe a generational talent come through Provo, Utah. And had you told me that 4 or 5 years ago when BYU was kind of wading their way through the West Coast Conference and there was question marks about the viability of BYU athletics as they continued on through independence and football and once again being members of the WCC, had you told me that 4 or 5 years later, BYU is going to have a potential number one pick in the NBA draft suiting up for them, I would have said, that's cute, but let's actually wake up and smell the roses. But that's the reality, everybody. That's exactly what we are going to be a witness to watching AJ Dybantsa and the BYU basketball program. Yeah, he is going to have his game scrutinized. He's going to have people who are naysayers out there. I've seen that with Cooper Flagg at different points this season. There have been people who've been trying to poke holes in his game all season long. And I fully expect it to happen with AJ Dybantsa. He has an off night. Guess what? There's going to be NBA talent evaluators, NBA mock draft analysts who are going to say, see, told you, there's a hole in his game, and here it is. The nice part is a guy like Cooper Flagg rose above that and essentially answered every question there was about him when it comes to his credentials as the number one pick. And like I said, a franchise type player in the NBA who is going to go to the Dallas Mavericks. Like I said, I am a jaded Utah Jazz fan. And the fact that they traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, turn around and get the number one overall pick. I don't necessarily subscribe to conspiracy theories. This one, it's got me on the cusp, but that's beside the point. We're going to watch what has happened with Cooper Flagg hopefully happen right here at home in Provo at BYU with AJ Dybantsa. And I'm looking forward to it because if he succeeds at the same level that a guy like Cooper Flagg succeeds, that means BYU's in for an incredible season. He is going to make himself a whole lot of money. He's already making a whole lot of money with NIL, the endorsement deals he has with Nike and Red Bull and the like. But it's absolutely just crazy to think about the prospect of what we are all about to watch with BYU basketball, with AJ leading the way. Will he ultimately succeed at that level? I sincerely hope so. I will be rooting for it. I don't care if I come off as a homer. I want to see it happen because I want to see BYU basketball. I want to see how far they can take this thing. I want to see Kevin Young, see how far he can take BYU basketball because he has said that he wants to make BYU an NBA pipeline, but he's also not going to do it at the expense of winning along the way. Could BYU play in a Final Four? I sure hope so. And I hope that AJ Dybantsa is the guy leading BYU to that glory alongside guys like Richie Saunders and Robert Wright III. This is going to be a really, really fun basketball season. And if you are not all in with BYU basketball, you better get ready for it because it's going to be really in your face. It's going to be almost unmissable in a way because there is just going to be so much. I mean, so much talked about, written about, said on podcasts like this one about AJ Dybantsa and the BYU basketball program. So get ready for it. There is an avalanche coming and it is not going to slow down for the better part of the next calendar year. It's crazy to consider that. But I, for one, am looking forward to all of it, and I want to watch it all unfold right before my very eyes. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Cougars. Truthfully, appreciate all y'all's support. The haters and the lovers all alike. We've had some trolls pop up on YouTube of late, but guess what? I have some fun with them along the way. And obviously, as always, I thank you for guys for continuing to subscribe, rate, review, share that with your family and friends. Like the show if you're watching on YouTube. All you got to click is that little thumbs up button. It helps get the word out more about this podcast. It's as simple as that. So thank you truthfully for all the support you give the show. As always, thank you for making it your first listen today. And until tomorrow, thank you for being an everydayer right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.